Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm continuing my study of Sidney Lumet films, and the next film is from 1965, and it is Sidney Lumet's The Pawnbroker with Rod Steiger. There's a lot of reflection here, but here you go. Here's the front and the back of that movie. Very iconic photo on the back. I'm just going to open this up. This is a Blu-ray from Olive Films also, so you can see the inside and this little pamphlet that they put in on some of their other titles. But the other great company that is releasing some of these movies on Blu-ray. And one thing I wanted to mention here, I'm going to talk a little bit about the plot of this movie and camera technique and things like that. So if you haven't seen The Pawnbroker, you can turn off the video and come back to this later. Now would be a good time to do that. So in general, I'll just give an overall plot summary of this movie, but essentially Rod Steiger plays a pawnbroker in a very rundown neighborhood in New York City, and his character is Saul Nazarman, and he's basically a World War II survivor of the death camps. And so throughout this movie, there are many different things that I am particularly impressed with. Number one is Rod Steiger's performance. Now, Rod Steiger was nominated for a Best Actor for his performance. He also, there was a series with Jon Favreau called Dinner for Five, and during that, happened to be a particular series where he had actors and artists get together to talk frankly about their roles, and Rod Steiger called this his absolute most favorite role by a long shot, he said. So it's interesting to hear that kind of anecdote. Rod Steiger is absolutely amazing in this movie in his portrayal of Saul Nazarman. And one of the things to note is, in general, the story to me represents a spiritual death, if you will, of the main character. He's been, he's been involved in a world war. He's been in a death camp, and he's placed himself now in a pawn shop, which the way Sidney Lumet films this movie is filled with shadows and cages and bars. So he's basically recreated for himself this traumatic environment that he's lived through. And he wrestles through the movie with his own heart and soul, trying to get back some hope. He basically is a character that does not have a lot of hope. There is a female that comes into the pawn shop at one point and tries to establish a relationship with him. And he, at one point in the film, tries to connect with her, and he does a little bit, but maybe not all the way. But it does give me a little bit of hope that at some point he will begin to reach out to others and try to resolve a little bit of the suffering that he's been going through during his life. So in terms of a Sidney Lumet film, you can see a lot of the techniques that he's beginning to use. The close-ups, this is another film that is also in black and white. He's using close-ups and shadows and imagery that represents the character's inner life. The other thing I like, that knowing some of the future, or knowing some of the other Sidney Lumet films, is one of my favorite types of scenes in a Sidney Lumet film is when he has the camera up high on a city street and you see the character running through the street. And this happens a couple times in the movie. There's another character that works in the pawn shop who's running through the streets, and I just really enjoy seeing that. Rod Steiger is seen wandering the streets also at one point in the movie, and I really just enjoy those types of scenes. They're very realistic, and Sidney Lumet does a great job of doing that, and I know he does this in future films that I've already seen. The other thing that I really enjoyed is the music by Quincy Jones. It's a very provocative type film score. And I forgot to mention when I talked about Long Day's Journey into Night, but also I really enjoyed the music in that film from Andre Previn, which was very much of a piano score. This particular score from Quincy Jones has more of a jazz feeling to it, and again, very dramatic. So if you haven't seen The Pawnbroker, I highly recommend watching it. I think it's one of Sidney Lumet's best films. Certainly, by a long shot, as Rod Steiger says, his best performance is one of his best performances. I'm a big fan of Rod Steiger anyway. There's many more great things to say about this film. It is a very intense drama, as I mentioned before. So Sidney Lumet is not known for light comedy, at least at this point in his career. And so this one is very dramatic. The other thing I really enjoyed about it is the way that Sidney Lumet does flashbacks. It's a very quick jump cut when he does a flashback. In other words, Rod Steiger is doing things in his life, and all of a sudden we'll see something that reminds him of the death camp, and it will flash before him. And there's a very famous scene that happens on the subway where it transforms into one of the trains that were taking people to these death camps through a series of images that, so Rod Steiger is going through his life and seeing some of these flashbacks very quickly. And again, I think Sidney Lumet does a great job in representing the way memory works, and if you're in a specific situation, how you might be triggered, by certain images or certain things. So that's the other thing I like in terms of technique. Again, the story itself is very dramatic and very intense. So if you're not a fan of those types of films, this one may not be for you. But I really enjoyed it. It's one of my favorite Sidney Lumet films. Thanks again for watching this channel. I really appreciate it. I really do appreciate all of the comments and questions, so keep those coming. Leave a comment below. Let me know if you like this film. If there's another Sidney Lumet film that you really enjoyed, let me know that also. But I really appreciate and really want to thank the film community on YouTube. I so much appreciate all the comments and questions. Subscribe to my channel too if you haven't already. That would be great. Click on the notification bell so you'll know when I upload a new video. And I sincerely hope that everyone is safe and well, and I'll talk to you soon.